The alien princess chose the cheapest human escort, and then the emperor knelt before him. 50 credits, Princess Lyra asked, observing the man seated at the back of the canteen. Is that really your price? Commander Sale glanced at the number projected onto the old table and let out a contemptuous laugh. 50 credits per cycle, Your Highness, less than the cost of feeding one of our pack animals. That human must be desperate or completely useless. The man heard every word, didn't raise his head, and continued cutting an apple with a small knife, patiently removing the rotten parts before putting a piece in your mouth. His military jacket was burned at the shoulders. An irregular scar ran across his left eyebrow and down to his cheekbone. She had dark hair flecked with gray and oversized hands covered in old marks. On the table, a holographic plaque flickered with difficulty. Adrian Boss, species human, occupation, independent bodyguard. Fee 50 credits, status available. Around them, the cantina of the last comet was full of mercenaries of every known species, some wore armor capable of withstanding plasma blasts. Others had combat implants, mechanical arms, or swarms of drones hovering above their shoulders. Adrian Buss had nothing but an old jacket, a canvas bag under the table, and a bruised apple he'd probably bought with his last few credits. Princess Lyra approached. Adrian, you're going. The human tore off another piece of fruit. It depends on who's asking. I'm Lyra of Bayerian. I know. That made Commander Sale frown. You're speaking to the heir to the Bayerian Empire. Stand up when she addresses you. Adrian bit into the apple. I've been sitting since before she arrived. I don't see why I should change now. Sale's hand descended to the grip of his ceremonial pistol. Lyra raised 2 fingers, ordering him to stop. I need to travel to Byra Prime, she said. My ship will depart in an hour. The route crosses the Crimson Corridor. Adrian stopped chewing for a moment, just for a moment. Bad route, it's the fastest. It's also where ships that want to get there quickly disappear. That's precisely why I need an escort. Adrian looked past the princess and into the rest of the cantina. At a nearby table sat 4 soldiers from Khorne's spectral guard. In another, a group of human mercenaries from the Atlas Corporation drank while their neuromechanical armor recharged, connected to the wall. There you have the best, Adrian said. New armor, new weapons, new teeth. Surely even their smiles come with a warranty. They also have contracts with my uncle. Adrian looked at her again. This time his gray eyes seemed more alert. That sounds more interesting. Lyra sat down opposite him. My father is ill. When I return to Byra Prime, the Imperial Council will officially announce that I am his successor. My uncle, Lord Barrows, has spent the last 6 years trying to prevent that from happening. Family problems. He tried to poison me 3 months ago. Close-knit family. 2 of my diplomatic ships crashed. The pilot of the second ship confessed before he died. Barrows had paid him. Adrian laid the knife on the table. So you don't need an escort, you need an army. An army can be bought, everything can be bought, right? Lyra slid a small metal token toward him. Adrian didn't touch it. The token was engraved with the number 50. I found that symbol in a sealed military file, Lyra continued. The records of the Battle of Nemesis were destroyed, but not completely. 50 credits isn't a fee, it's a password. The noise from the cantina seemed to disappear. Commander Sale looked at Lyra, confused. Adrian remained motionless. I don't know what you're talking about. The survivors of Group 50 used that number to recognize each other. Human soldiers who don't accept corporate contracts. Men and women who fight only when they believe the cause is worth it. Adrian took the token, turned it over between his fingers. You've been investigating dangerous things, Princess. I need to get back to my world alive. And how much are you willing to pay? 100,000 credits. Commander Sale's eyes widened. Your Highness. Adrian let out a short laugh. My ad says 50. Your ad is lying. Almost all of them are. Except. The human stared for a few seconds at the apple in his hand. Then he looked at Lyra. I accept with 3 conditions. Sale snorted. You don't impose conditions on the Imperial heir. Adrian didn't take his eyes off Lyra. First, from the moment we leave this station until you set foot in the palace, you will obey my instructions. I am the future empress. In your palace, perhaps in the Crimson Corridor, you will only be the person they try to kill. Lyra held his gaze. Go on. Second, no one will have access to the security systems without my authorization. Commander Sale took a step forward. I'm the head of the Royal Guard, and that's why you'll have less access than anyone else. Insolent third class, Adrian continued, if I discov. Oh, you've withheld anything that could kill us. The contract is over, no matter where we are. Lyra extended her hand. I accept. Adrian studied her long, silver fingers. Barians possessed sleek bodies and minds capable of solving gravitational equations in seconds, yet their bones were light, and their bodies reacted poorly to physical pain. A human could survive wounds that would kill a Bayan before medical help arrived. Adrian shook her hand carefully. Then we'd better leave before your uncle discovers you've hired a ghost. The Imperial ship Silver Aurora waited at one of the station's private docks. It was long, sleek, and so white it seemed to glow. Symbols of the Imperial House shone along its sides, and two curved wings extended around the jump drive. Adrian stopped in front of it. No, Lyra, walking ahead of him, turned her head. No, what? We won't be traveling in that. It's one of the Empire's most advanced ships. It's also a 300-met Imperial flag screaming, the princess is here, please fire on her. It has quantum cloaking, and whoever sabotaged your other ships knows its frequencies. Commander Sale crossed his arms. The Silver Aurora has a molecular crystal hull, 7th-generation shields, and enough weaponry to destroy 3 human cruisers. Adrian dropped his duffel bag. The thud made a heavy metallic sound. How many evacuation routes? Sale was silent. How many manual controls work if the core shuts down? The commander's jaw clenched. How many blind spots do the internal sensors have? The safety of this ship doesn't need to be questioned by a mercenary using gunpowder. Adrian moved slowly closer to him. Ships don't kill their passengers, Commander, people who know their weaknesses. And Lyra intervened before the discussion could continue. We can't change ships. The succession will be announced in 22 days. If I don't arrive in time, my uncle will claim the right of regency. Adrian surveyed the ship once more. Then I'll have to turn this floating palace into something that can survive. During the first few hours of the voyage, Adrian went through every corridor, every ventilation duct, and every technical compartment of the Silver Aurora. He sealed several doors, deactivated automatic sensors, and placed small metal objects in locations no one understood. Sale followed him with growing irritation. He's blocked access to the medical wing, only the main entrance. And why? Because it has 3 entrances, now it has 1. That makes evacuation difficult. It also makes it difficult for anyone to flank us. He's disconnected the smart doors in the central corridor. Now they can be closed manually. He's filled the emergency compartments with crates, their barricades, their human garbage. Adrian opened one of the crates. Inside were pieces of metal, cables, armor plates, and projectiles of varying sizes. Human junk has a knack for continuing to function when elegant technology decides to die. Princess Lyra watched from the entrance. She always hopes everything will go wrong. Adrian closed the box. No, then why does she act this way? Because when you expect everything to go right, one problem is enough to destroy you. When you expect problems, you need many to be surprised. That night, Lyra found him sitting in front of one of the panoramic windows. Adrian was cleaning an antique-looking pistol. The weapon had scratches, worn areas, and a grip marked with an almost erased letter. How old is that gun? She asked. 142. It's older than some human colonies and it still fires. Our shields can stop physical projectiles. Some. Commander Sale thinks your equipment is primitive. Sale believes too many things. Lyra sat down opposite him. For a moment, they gazed at the reddish clouds in the crimson corridor. Stardust swirled like an ocean of blood around the ship. Why did you desert the military? She asked. Adrian continued cleaning the weapon. I didn't desert it. The records say you were expelled. The records say what someone paid them to say. What happened on Nemesis? The human's hand stopped. Don't ever say that name again. I need to know who's protecting my life. Adrian looked up. You don't need to know if I can keep you alive. Everything else is just curiosity. Someday I will rule an empire of nearly 1 billion people. Curiosity is part of my job, so learn the difference between a locked door and a door you shouldn't open. Lyra stood up. You don't trust anyone. That's not true. Who do you trust? Adrian finished assembling the gun. The metallic clang of the weapon echoed in the cockpit. The dead had already shown which side they were on. On the 10th day of the voyage, communications began to fail. First, there were minor interferences. Then the signal with the Imperial beacons disappeared. Finally, all the long-range sensors showed a complete blank. Adrian entered the bridge, jacket on, old pistol strapped to his hip. Reduce speed. Sail didn't even turn around. We are not under attack. Reduce speed. The jump drives are operating within normal parameters. Adrian approached the navigation panel. No commercial signals. We are in a jamming zone. No engine debris, heat emissions, or pirate communications either. Nothing. That proves the route is clear. It doesn't prove everyone else knows something we don't. Lyra sat up in the main seat. Commander, reduce speed. Sail looked at the princess. For a split second, something changed in his expression. Then he reached for the controls. The ship shook violently. The lights went out. A sharp alarm blared across the bridge. Lyra was thrown against the seatbelt. Sail pretended to lose her balance, but Adrian saw that the commander had already braced himself before the impact. Report, Lyra ordered. An iron anchor, Sail replied, feigning surprise. Someone has jammed the jump drive. How many ships? The sensors aren't responding. Adrian drew his pistol. Ship to starboard, 2 boarding modules approaching from below. Sail looked at him. How can the sensors tell? Because the hull vibrates differently when enemy thrusters are approaching. That's absurd. I also know you deactivated the surveillance of the lower corridor 6 minutes ago. Silence fell over the bridge. Lyra looked at Sail. Commander Sail drew his weapon. The plasma cannon was pointed directly at the princess's chest. Don't move, Your Highness. Lyra slowly opened her hands. Since when? Since before we left Byra Prime, you swore loyalty to me. I swore it to the Empire. I am the heir to the Empire. You intend to weaken it. You want to grant citizenship to inferior species, limit the power of the noble houses, and allow humans to have bases within our territory. I want to avoid a war. Peace is the excuse of weak rulers. Sail looked at Adrian, put the weapon on the ground. Adrian didn't move. Do as he says, Lyra whispered. The human dropped the pistol. Sail smiled. My Lord Barrows was right. Humans only seem dangerous when they're armed. Adrian raised his hands. How many men are coming? Enough mercenaries from the Red Circle, professionals hired by House Barrows. And after we kill her, we'll find her body among the wreckage of the ship. The Empire will mourn the death of its princess, and Lord Barrows will accept the crown to avoid chaos. Good plan. Sail frowned. Why are you smiling? Because you've just confirmed something. What? That you don't know the men you've hired? Sail squeezed the trigger. Adrian had already moved. The human struck Sail's arm from below. The plasma blast pierced the ceiling. Before the commander could react, Adrian grabbed his wrist and spun around with his full weight. The Barian's light bones snapped with a dry crack. Sail screamed. Adrian headbutted him. Silvery blood splattered the floor. The commander staggered backward, but Adrian didn't let him fall. He grabbed him by the collar of his armor, lifted him up, and hurled him against the navigation panel. The molecular glass cracked. Sail lay motionless. Lyra stared at the human, her eyes wide. It had all happened in less than 3 seconds. Adrian retrieved his pistol. He's dead. His head didn't hit a reinforced panel. That's why I didn't hit him harder. A metallic clang echoed through the lower deck. They're coming in, Adrian said. What should we do? The human took Sail's weapon and handed it to Lyra. You're going to hide behind the auxiliary core. I can help. You can help by obeying. I'm not going to stay hidden while you fight alone. Adrian stared at her. The men coming won't get paid until they confirm your death. That means you're the target, not me. If you go out into the corridor, you'll turn every decision I make into a decision about how to stop them from killing you. Stay here, and I can focus on eliminating the threat. Lyra gripped the weapon, and Adrian opened his bag, pulled out a black shotgun, 2 additional pistols, several magazines, and 4 metal cylinders. I'm going to make those professionals regret taking the contract. The lower doors exploded. 16 mercenaries entered the Silver Aurora. They wore black combat armor, thermal visors, and personal shields capable of deflecting plasma blasts. They advanced in 2 perfectly coordinated lines. Team 1, secure the bridge, the leader ordered. Team 2, find the heiress. The human can be eliminated. The corridor lights went out. The mercenaries activated their visors. A human figure appeared on their screens at the end of the corridor. Target located. They fired. Dozens of plasma beams tore through the darkness. The figure fell. The first team advanced. When they reached it, they discovered it wasn't Adrian. It was a military jacket perched on a maintenance stand. Trap. A metallic clang rattled between their boots. One of the mercenaries looked down. What's that? The grenade exploded. The first soldier's personal shield tried to react to the surge of energy, but the shockwave and physical FR. Fragments ripped through the protection before it could adjust. 4 mercenaries were thrown against the walls. Adrian appeared from a side vent. He fired his shotgun. The first hit shattered a joint in a piece of armor. The second struck the visor of the soldier behind him. A mercenary swiveled his rifle. Adrian was already too close. He grabbed him by the barrel, deflected the shot toward the ceiling, and buried the butt of the shotgun in his throat. Another soldier charged at him with an energy blade. Adrian took a step back. The blade whizzed past inches from his face. The human dropped his shotgun, grabbed the attacking arm with both hands, and used the mercenary's momentum to slam him against the wall. The soldier tried to get up. Adrian drew his antique pistol. He fired twice at the leg joints. The armor collapsed. "He has no shield," someone shouted. "Shoot him." 3 plasma beams lit up the corridor. One grazed Adrian's shoulder. The fabric burst into flames. The smell of burning flesh filled the hall. Adrian smothered the flames by slamming his arm against the wall and kept moving forward. He didn't scream, he didn't stop. The mercenaries fell back. They had been trained to face organized armies, soldiers with tactical systems, and fighters who relied on their armor. They weren't prepared for a human who used every corner, every shadow, and every piece of metal as a weapon. Adrian fired at a pipe. A cloud of boiling steam blocked the thermal vision. Mercenaries opened fire blindly. He dove to the ground, slipped beneath the blasts, and fired at the energy regulators of their shields. 2 soldiers fell, then he vanished in the smoke. "Where is he?" "He didn't detect him. He's within our formation." Adrian's voice came from behind them. "Exactly." The corridor was filled with gunfire. From the bridge, Lyra listened to the detonations. Each explosion was followed by screams, metallic clangs, and long silences. She gripped the pistol with both hands. Sale began to move on the ground. The princess aimed at him. "Don't get up." The commander smiled despite the blood covering his face. "He doesn't understand what's happening. I understand he tried to assassinate me. Barrows already controls the Imperial fleet. Even if she survives, the Council will never accept her. She'll confess to them." "Never." Lyra adjusted the weapon. "Then I'll play the recording." Sale's smile vanished. The princess pointed to a small device mounted beneath the panel. Mr. Buss installed analog recorders. He said the intelligent systems could be manipulated. "Damned human." "Yeah, looks like his junk works." Sale lunged at her. Lyra fired. The plasma blast hit him in the chest and knocked him back to the ground. The princess stood motionless, shocked by what she had just done. Then she heard slow, heavy footsteps approaching the bridge. Lyra aimed at the door. A figure appeared through the smoke. It was Adrian. His jacket was ripped. The burn on his shoulder had blackened his skin, and a trickle of blood ran down his forehead. But he was walking. "Is it over?" Lyra asked. "The first group." "Yes, there was another. There's always another." Adrian closed the door and began moving a metal cabinet. "The enemy ship is still connected to us. The survivors are preparing a charge to destroy the core. Can you stop them?" "I can try." "He's wounded." "That happens when someone fires in your direction. You need medical attention." "Need 5 minutes." Adrian took a small box from his bag and handed it to him. "When you close this door, it activates the timer." "What's inside?" "An electromagnetic pulse. That will disable all our systems. It will also disable the enemy detonators. We'll be adrift and alive." "Where's the human going?" He picked up the shotgun to return his ship. Adrian went through the boarding tube. 6 mercenaries were waiting on the other side. The first one fired. Adrian dropped to one knee. Plasma shot over his head and hit the soldier behind him. The human fired the shotgun at a lamp. The enemy ship went dark. The mercenaries activated their visors. Adrian threw a flashbang grenade. The optical systems amplified the flash. All 6 were momentarily blinded. When their sight returned, 2 were already on the floor. Adrian moved straight toward the enemy bridge. The captain activated the intercom. "Harper." The human stopped. No one had called him by that name. "So they've finally found you," the voice continued. "General Adrian Harper, Nemesis's executioner. We thought you were dead." Adrian gripped the weapon. "Harper died 20 years ago. Lord Barrows will pay double if we bring you in alive." Then he made the mistake of telling them who I am. Everyone knows the legend. Legends are always exaggerated. A hatch opened. 4 heavily armored soldiers appeared before him. Adrian drew the last metal cylinder from his belt. Not this one. The explosion shook both ships. Lyra fell to the bridge floor. The emergency lights went out. For several seconds there was silence. Then the boarding tube separated from the silver aurora. The enemy ship began to slowly drift away. A small figure leaped from its hatch. Adrian crossed the void, propelling himself with an emergency cable, struck the Imperial hull, and was secured to the outside. Lyra ran to the airlock. The human entered seconds later, covered in ice and breathing heavily. "What did he do?" "I disabled their navigation controls and caused the explosion. I left them with a problem in the reactor." Through the window, the enemy ship spun uncontrollably. A blue light grew inside, then vanished in a silent explosion. Adrian leaned against the wall. Now we can repair the engines. Lyra watched him. The captain called him Harper. The human remained silent. Who are you really? The man you hired. Adrian Base. He's existed for 19 years, but before he was Adrian Harper. The human closed his eyes. He used to be someone much more foolish. It took the Silver Aurora 2 days to regain her jump ability. During that time, Lyra tended to the human's wound. Barian medicines were incompatible with his system, so Adrian showed her how to clean the burn and close the cuts with medical staples. The princess paled as she watched the metal pierce his skin. Humans do this without anesthesia. Intelligent humans don't. And you, I'm starting to notice a pattern in your questions. When he finished, Lyra sat down beside him. I found your name in the ship's files. Adrian didn't respond. General Adrian Harper, commander of the 50th Orbital Assault Battalion, wasn't a general. The records say he led the defense of Nemesis after the deaths of all the senior officers. That didn't make me a general, it just made me the last idiot standing. He saved over 30,000 civilians. He also lost 412 soldiers. He held off an invasion by a day. That day allowed the Imperial fleet to arrive. Adrian looked away. The fleet arrived late, but it arrived. When it was all over, Lyra was silent for a few seconds. My father was there. The human looked at her. Why do you ask that? Some reports mention a Barian governor trapped beneath the command center. His name was redacted. Adrian stood up. We need to check the engines. It was my father. Drop the subject, Lyra. It was the first time I'd called her by name. You saved her life. I told you to drop the subject. Why are you hiding something like this? Adrian turned sharply. Because every time someone finds out what I did, they try to make it into something beautiful. It wasn't beautiful. There was no music, no speeches, no flags. There were people screaming under the rubble. There were soldiers burning inside their armor. There were 18-year-old boys begging me to tell their mothers they hadn't been scared. Their voices barely cracked, and I lied to them. I told them everything would be all right while I knew they'd die before the medics arrived. Lyra didn't move. I was losing my battalion to save an alien governor I didn't even know. When the war was over, the politicians needed a scapegoat for the casualties. They made me the scapegoat. The governor promised to defend me, but he disappeared into his new position. So Adrian Harper died, and Adrian Buss started taking 50-credit jobs. My father wouldn't have allowed himself to be blamed. Your father did what all rulers do. He survived. Lyra lowered her gaze. When we arrive, she'll speak with him. She doesn't owe him an explanation. She doesn't owe me anything. She owes him her life. And I owed my life to the 412 soldiers who didn't return. Debts can't always be repaid. As the Silver Aurora appeared over Byra Prime, more than 200 Imperial ships circled the planet. Capital glowed beneath them, covered in crystal towers, violet oceans, and orbital rings that reflected the light of 2 suns. Yet not a single ship transmitted a greeting. Something's wrong, Adrian said. Lyra tried to open a channel. This is Princess Lyra of Barian. I request immediate authorization to land at the Imperial Palace. Silence. Finally, a voice answered, Silver Aurora, reduce your defense systems and follow the assigned corridor. Identify yourself. Imperial Orbital Control. Adrian leaned over the console. Request a confirmation code. Lyra did so. There was no response. They're guiding us toward an isolated platform, she said. Barrows controls orbital space. So we can't land. Yes, we can. They'll arrest us as soon as we leave. Adrian observed the ship's trajectories. Not if we arrive through a door they aren't expecting. Minutes later, the Silver Aurora simulated a loss of control. The ship plummeted toward the atmosphere, ignoring orders from orbital control. 3 interceptors launched after it. Lyra gripped her seat. They'll catch us. No, they're faster. That's why they'll think we're trying to escape. Adrian altered the trajectory. The Aurora pierced the clouds and descended toward the city. The interceptors continued in pursuit. At the last instant, Adrian activated the escape pods, an empty pod SH. Out into the ocean, the interceptors changed direction to pursue it. Meanwhile, the Imperial vessel concealed itself among the city's transport routes and landed on a maintenance platform beneath the palace. How did you know they would pursue the escape pod? Lyra asked. Because pilots see what they expect to see. Adrian lifted sail, still chained. We will present your claim to the throne. The Grand Imperial Hall was packed. Representatives of noble houses, military commanders, and diplomats from dozens of worlds waited before the onyx throne. Emperor Kale sat atop the platform. He looked much older than in official portraits. His silver hair had lost its luster, and an unknown illness had ravaged parts of his body. To his right stood Lord Barrows. In the absence of Princess Lyra, Barrows announced, and in the absence of a legitimate successor, I have accepted the responsibility of serving as regent. The hall doors opened and everyone turned. Lyra entered, head held high. Behind her walked Sale, chained and covered in wounds. Adrian brought up the rear. His human boots were stained with grease. His jacket was still burned, and he carried the old canvas bag slung over his shoulder. The Emperor stood. Lyra, the princess, stepped toward the throne. I have returned, father. Barrows paled only for a second. Then he regained his composure. Niece, we all feared you were dead, some more than others. A murmur rippled through the hall. Barrows pointed at Sale. Why is the commander of your guard chained up? Because he tried to assassinate me? That's absurd. He confessed he was acting under your orders, and we are supposed to believe the word of a traitor? Lyra pulled out the recording device. Sale's voice filled the hall. His death will unite the Empire. Lord Barrows will take the throne, and no one will question his authority. The nobles began to murmur. Barrows raised a hand. A recording manipulated by human technology. My niece has been deceived by that mercenary. His eyes stopped on Adrian. Who are you? The escort. That man protected you. Yes, Barrows chuckled. How much did you pay him? 50 credits. Laughter rippled through the hall. The nobles eyed Adrian's old jacket, his antiquated weapons, and the dried bloodstains on his boots. The future empress has entrusted her life to a human beggar, Barrows declared. This proves she is unfit to rule. Lyra took a step forward. That beggar destroyed the assassins you sent. Words. He also captured your spy. More words. Barrows glanced at the Emperor. Brother, Lyra has been manipulated. We must detain her until we can assess her mental state. The Emperor didn't reply. He was watching Adrian. Something about the human's face seemed to puzzle him. Mercenary, Cale said. Come closer. Adrian didn't move. The Emperor has given you an order, Barrows said. I don't work for him. The laughter subsided. The Imperial Guards lowered their spears. Cale stepped down a step. What's your name? Adrian Buss. The Emperor continued to stare at him. That's not your name. Adrian clenched his jaw. It's the only one I use. I've seen those eyes before. The hall fell silent. Cale stepped down another step. Nemesis. Adrian didn't reply. The command center was burning. The Emperor continued. Invaders controlled the city. My guards were dead, and I was buried under 20 tons of rubble. Barrows frowned. Brother, what are you doing? Cale didn't hear him. We sent out a distress signal. The fleet couldn't break through the blockade. No units responded. Adrian slowly dropped his bag. Don't do this, Cale. The Emperor trembled at the sound of his name being called without a title. Then the humans arrived. Adrian pulled an old lighter from his pocket. It had a small piece of metal soldered to the base. Cale recognized it. It was a fragment of Imperial armor engraved with the symbol of House Barian. A battalion descended through orbital fire, the Emperor said. They fought for 6 hours to reach us. Adrian opened the lighter. A small flame illuminated his face. 7 hours, the Emperor breathed heavily. You pulled me from the rubble. My battalion pulled you. You carried me on your shoulders as the city crumbled. Anyone would have. No one else did. Adrian closed the lighter. I didn't come to dwell on the past. I came to deliver your daughter alive and collect my money. The Emperor reached the top step. General Harper. The nobles exchanged confused glances. Some of the older officers recognized the name. Their expressions changed. Harper is dead, Adrian said. No, Cale replied. He was betrayed. Barrows stepped back. General Harper, that's impossible. The Emperor stopped in front of the human. Adrian wore a burned jacket. Blood was on his face. His shoulder was bandaged, and one of his boots was held together with tape. He didn't look like a hero. He didn't look like a general. He looked like a weary man who had spent too much time just surviving. Cale slowly lowered himself. To one knee, the Emperor of Barian bowed his head before him. You gave me my life when I was a stranger to you, he said. Now you have saved my daughter. My crown, my family, and my empire exist because of your sacrifice. The entire hall froze. The guards deactivated their weapons one after another. They began to kneel. The officers followed suit, then the nobles. Within seconds, almost the entire imperial court was kneeling before the human who charged 50 credits. Adrian sighed. Stand, Cale. General, my men didn't die so that an emperor would kneel before me. They died so that people could stand. Cale looked up. Adrian held out his hand. Stand and fix your empire. The Emperor took his hand. Barrows looked around. Su plan si había derrumbado. La grabación, el regreso del era y la verdadera identidad del mercenario habían convertido a toda la corte en su enemiga. Esto es una farsa, dijo. Un espectáculo organizado por un humano resentido y una niña incapaz de comprender el poder. el emperador si giro, guardias, arrested mi hermano, cuatro soldados avanzaron, barro sonrio, demasiado tarde, prisionero and dispositivo oculto bajo su manga, el techo del salón exploto, fragmentos de cristal descendieron sobre los nobles, 20 figuras con armaduras cromadas atravesaron la abertura utilizando cables magnéticos. Eran mercenarios de la corporación Elix, el ejército privado más caro del sector. Sus exoesqueletos amplificaban su fuerza. Cada soldado levaba cañones de plasma integrados, escudos adaptativos y sistemas de combate predictivo. Al frente se encontraba un humano gigantesco. La mitad de su rostro era de metal. Su brazo derecho terminaba en un cañón rotatorio. Contrato de transferencia de poder activado, anuncio. Por orden del nuevo emperador Barros, toda resistencia será eliminada. Barros se colocó detrás de los mercenarios. El trono pertenece a Quintin la fuerza para conservarlo. Adrian miró al líder de Elix, Marcus Raid. El mercenario sonrió. Adrian Harper, el fantasma de Nemesis. Sigues trabajando per cualquiera que pague y tu sigues fingiendo que la moral pude alimenta un soldado. No, pero ayuda a dormir. Marcus activó su cañón. Mata al emperador, mata a la princesa, ya país mío. Los soldados de Elix abrieron fuego. Adrian empuja detrás del trono de Onyx. Los guardias imperiales levantaron sus escudos, pero las descargas comenzaron a atravesarlos. Adrian abrió su bolsa, sacó un rifle magnético envuelto en una manta vieja. Lyra reconoció el arma, dijo que estaba desarmada, mentí. El rifle cobró vida con un zumbido profundo. Adrian disparó. El proyectil atravesó el escudo de un mercenario y golpeó la articulación de su rodilla. La armadura colapsó. El segundo disparo destruyó el sistema hidráulico de otro soldado. No dispares al centro, gritó Adrian a los guardias. Apuntad a las articulaciones, sensors y fuentes de energía. Los soldados imperiales ajustaron su estrategia. El salón se convirtió en un campo de batalla. Las columnas de mármol explotaban. Las cortinas ardían. Los nobles corrían hacia las salidas mientras los guardias formaban una línea alrededor del emperador. Lyra permanecía detrás del trono. Vio a Barros desplazándose hacia una puerta lateral. Sujeto la pistola que Adrian le había entregado en la nave. Barros, su tío se detuvo. Lyra, escucha. Esto puede terminar sin más sangre. Entreguem la corona y permitiré que vivas. Como permitiste que viviera mi madre, Barros quedó inmóvil. Lyra había sospechado durante años. Su silencio fue la respuesta. Fuiste tú su zaro ella. Tu madre era débil. Convenció a aquel de abandonar nuestras tradiciones. Iba destruir todo lo que nuestra familia había construido. La envenenaste. Salvé el imperio. Lyra levantó el arma. Solo intentaste robarlo. Disparó. El impacto golpeó a Barros en las piernas. El noble cayó al suelo gritando. Mientras tanto, Marcus avanzaba hacia Adrian. Los proyectiles del rifle magnético golpeaban su armadura, pero las placas reforzadas resisten. Es lento si burló Marcus. Tus reflejos ya no son los de Nemesis. Adrian retrocedió detrás de una columna. Y tú sigues hablando demasiado. Marcus dispara. La columna se partió. Adrian salió rodando entre los fragmentos y vació el cargador contra el brazo mecánico del mercenario. El cañón rotatorio se bloqueó. Marcus lo arrancó con fuerza y lo lanzó al suelo. Dispares cargo. Su hombro golpeó a Adrian en el pecho. El humano salió despedido y chocó contra las escaleras del trono. Marcus lo levantó por el culo. Las leyendas debían saber cuando moría. Adrian intentó liberar la mano de su enemigo. No pudo. Marcus aumentó la presión. Te convertiste en un perro callejero por unos soldados muertos. Yo aprendí la lección que tú nunca entendiste. Los muertos no pagan. Los ideals no pagan, solo el poder importa. Adrian miró por encima del hombro de Marcus. Tienes razón, que los muertos no pagan. Una sonrisa apareció en el rostro de Adrian, pero tampoco perdonan. Pia. Hicieron un pequeño detonador. Las placas metálicas que había colocado alrededor del salón durante su entrada explotaron al mismo tiempo. No eran bombas, eran generadores de pulso magnético. Los sistemas de las armaduras Elix se apagaron. Marcus soltó a Adrian. Su brazo mecánico quedó inmóvil. Sus piernas hidráulicas se bloquearon. Los mercenarios cayeron al suelo. atrapados dentro de sus propias armaduras. Os guardias imperials los rodaron, Marcus intento moverse, cuando colocast los generadores, Adrian requirió su pistola antigua mientras todos miraban al emperador Ardilas. Eso no estaba en tus manos cuando entraste, por eso trae una bolsa. Marcus observó el arma, no pudes matarme delante de toda la corte. Adrian apuntó hacia su cabeza, no desvió el cañón y disparó contra el mecanismo de seguridad de la armadura. Las placas se cerraron alrededor del mercenario, inmovilizándolo por completo, pero pudo dejar un tribunal decida cuanto vale tu contra tu, el combate había terminado. Barros intentó arrastrarse hacia la salida, lir camino hasta él. Sabrina, no me lames así, todo lo que has fu por nuestro pueblo, lo hiciste por el trono. El imperio necesita un gobernante fuerte, lir miro a los guardias. Entonces aprenderás lo que significa ser juzgado por uno. Barros fu encadenado junto a sail y los supervivientes de Lix. Horas después, el gran salón seguía cubierto de humo. El techo estaba destruido. El suelo se encontraba lleno de cristales, restos de armaduras y armas desactivadas. Adrian estaba sentado en los escalones del trono, cerrando una herida del brazo con una grapadora médica. Que él se aproximó acompañado por varios médicos. Nuestros especialistas puden atender. Vuestros especialistas creen que mi sangre es una enfermedad. Tienes 3 costillas fracturadas. He tenido semanas peores. Lir se sentó junto a él. Cuando lo contraté, pensé que sabía quién era. Ese fue tu prima era. Pensé que era un veterano del grupo 50. Segundo era. Pensé que los 50 créditos eran una contraseña. Adrian terminó de colocar la venda. Lo eran. Entonces, ¿por qué publica esa tarifa? Porque los ricos buscan al mercenario más caro. Las personas desesperadas buscan al único que puden pagar. Lira lo observa. ¿Cuántas veces ha protegido a alguien por 50 créditos? Las suficientes. Podría haber ganado una fortuna. También podría haber muerto muchas veces. Casi murió hoy. Pero no lo hice, así que fue un buen día. El emperador se detuvo frente a él. Sostenía una placa de datos negra. He transferido 20 millones de créditos a una cuenta sin identificación. Adrian levantó una ceja. Mi contrato era de 100,000. Lo restante corresponde a los intereses de una deuda pendiente durante 20 años. No quiero que compres tu conciencia. Que él bajó la placa. No existe una cantidad capaz de hacerlo. El emperador se sentó en el escalón inferior. Por primera vez no parecía un soberano, solo un hombre viejo. Cuando regresé de Nemesis, intenté encontrar no lo suficiente. Mi hermano y varios miembros del consejo me convencieron de que habías muerto durante la evacuación. Y te resultó más fácil creerlo. Sí, Adrian lo miró. Que él no apartó la vista. Fui un cobarde, admitió el emperador. Sabía que los informes sobre tu batallón eran falsos. Sabía que alguien necesitaba ser culpado, pero acababa de heredar un imperio al borde de la guerra y pensé que podría corregir aquella injusticia más adelante. Siempre hay un más adelante para los hombres que se sienten en un trono hasta que deja de haberlo. El silencio se prolongó. Que él levantó de nuevo la placa. No te pido que me perdones. Te pido que permitas que repare parte del daño. El dinero puede ayudar a las familias de tus soldados. Adrian mira la placa. Algunas familias aún esperan prótesis militares que el gobierno humano nunca pagó. Entonces las tendrán y varios supervivientes viven en colonias sin hospitals. Construimos hospitals. No quiero estatuas. No habrá estatuas ni desfiles. Tampoco desfiles. Y quiero que los archivos de Nemesis sean liberados. El emperador asintió. Todos. Adrian tomó la placa. Entonces, quizá puedas empezar a dormir un poco mejor. Que él sonrió con tristeza. Quiero ofrecer algo más. Sabía que venía esa parte. El mando de la Guardia Imperial. Adrian soltó una carcajada. No, escuchame. No tendrías autoridad sobre todas las fuerzas de seguridad del Imperio. No una residencia dentro del palacio, eso lo empeora. Y un puesto permanente en el consejo. Adrian señaló la chaqueta quemada que levaba puesta. Pesco alguien que debería participar en una reunión del consejo. Lir sonrió. Podría ser interesante. Golpearía a un noble durante el primer día. Probablemente se lo merecería. Ese no es el problema. que el si puso de pai, entonces, dime que decías. Adrian guardó la placa en su bolsillo. Una nave pequeña, sin símbolos imperials, sin pads de cristal y con controls, que siguen funcionando cuando se apaga la energía. Concedido, munición concedida, una cargada. Manzanas de la tierra, lira aqua una sella, eso es to do, las manzanas de verdad son caras, podría quedarse dijo ella, el imperio cambiará después de lo ocurrido, necesitamos personas que no pueden ser compradas, Adrián se colgó la bolsa al hombro, todas las personas pueden ser compradas, prince, lira pareció decepcionada, el humano continuó, la diferencia es que algunas no aceptan dinero. Camino hacia la salida, los guardias imperiales se alinearon a ambos lados del pasillo. Cuando Adrián pasó frente al primero, el soldado golpeó la base de su lanza contra el suelo. El siguiente hizo lo mismo. Después otro. El sonido se extendió por todo el salón. Era el saludo reservado para los héroes del imperio. Adrián siguió caminando, no se detuvo, no se giró. Al llegar las puertas, lira lo lama. Adrián, el humano miró por encima del hombro. Volveremos a verlo. Adrián observó a la princesa, al emperador y al salón destruido. Espero que no, lira frunció el ceño. Porque eso significará que no estáis en problemas. Y si lo estamos. Adrián sacó el viejo encendedor. La insignia metálica brilló bajo la luz de los dos soles. Publicó un contrato de 50 créditos. Abandonó el palacio sin esperar respuesta. 3 días después, una nave de carga pequeña y poco elegante salió de la órbita de Bayer Prime. Su casco estaba lleno de reparaciones visibles. Sus motores producían un ruido preocupante y en uno de sus laterales alguien había pintado una palabra humana, fantasma, dentro de la cabina. Adrián abrió una caja. Encontró docenas de manzanas rojas. Sobre ellas había un mensaje de lira. Para el escolta más barato de la galaxia. La próxima vez pagaré 51. Adrián sonrió, tomó una manzana y mordió un pedazo. En la pantalla de comunicaciones apareció una lista de contratos, convoys corporativos, guerras privadas, protección de nobles, rescates millenarios. Adrián los ignoró. Al final de la lista encontró una pequeña solicitud procedente de una colonia minera. Una familia estaba atrapada detrás de un bloqueo pirata. No podían pagar un ejército. No podían contratar a la corporación Elks. Su oferta total era de 50 créditos. Adrián pulsó el botón de aceptación. Los motores del fantasma se encendieron mientras la nave desaparecía entre las estrellas. Los archivos secretos de Nemesis comenzaron a difundirse por toda la galaxia. Millones de personas conocieron los nombres de los soldados humanos que habían sido olvidados. Conocieron su sacrificio. Conocieron la traición que intentó borrar su historia y también descubrieron la verdad sobre el mercenario que caminaba con una chaqueta quemada, utilizaba armas antiquadas y aceptaba contratos que nadie más quería. No era el más barato porque valiera poco, era el más barato porque no luchaba por el dinero. La princesa alienada lo había elegido pensando que contrataba un escolta olvidado. Los mercenarios se habían reído. Los nobles lo habían llamado mendigo. El traidor había creído que podía comprar soldados medios. Pero cuando el emperador de un balón de almas vio el viejo encendedor y reconoció al hombre que lo había sacado de una ciudad en llamas, no vio a un mercenario de 50 créditos, vio al último superviviente de un batallón que había desafiado a un ejército entero. Vio al general al que su imperio había abandonado. Vio al hombre al que debía su vida. Y por eso el emperador se ardiló. No ante el arma de Adrian Harper, no ante su rango, ni siquiera ante su leyenda. Se ardiló ante algo mucho más raro en una galaxia donde todos tenían un precio. Un hombre que seguía haciendo lo correcto, incluso cuando nadie estaba dispuesto a recompensarlo. Y ahora quiero saber tu opinión. Si hubieras estado en el lugar de Adrián, habrías aceptado el puesto dentro del palacio y una vida de poder, riqueza y reconocimiento. O habrías tomado tu vieja nave para continuar ayudando a quien solo podían pagar 50 créditos. Escribe tu respuesta en los comentarios. YC esta historia te mantuvo con curiosidad hasta el final. Apoyo el video con un me gusta. Suscribit al canal y activa las notifications para no perder las próximas historias. Porque la galaxia está llena de imperios, que creen poder comprarlo todo, pero tarde o temprano todos descubren la misma verdad. Nunca debes subestimar al humano más barato de la sala. M.